So I think we're live. Welcome to the third. I think this is the third, or is this the fourth? This is the fourth, I think. Fourth M8 meetup. I think so. It might be the third. I'm not going to keep track. This is supposed to be casual and not really planned out super well. So to keep the theme alive, I don't even know which number this is. So this week we're going to talk about FM synthesis, live performance, and MIDI stuff with the M8, as well as any other off-topic things we could think of. So yeah, how's everybody doing?
Good morning. Good.
Yeah, rise and shine, Australians. It's time to chat.
Yeah, I don't. Why do they wake up so late? It's 3 p.m. Yeah.
All right, we got people in the M8 chat waving. So
Hello.
I've got my phone set up now, so I can watch the screen, look at my phone, and also watch the Twitch chat all at the same time.
That
It's
sounds way better than what I have set up.
I feel like I'm having it's like that scene in the Minority Report where you're just 5 floating screens and I'm just waving them around. Yeah, but it's working.
Yeah, I just have 400 windows open that I have to juggle between. So yeah, hopefully the stream is okay. I'm not watching it, but neither is anybody else. I think we're fine.
Yeah, I haven't seen anybody. Let's see. There you go.
Yeah, I didn't really announce this meetup as frequently as I did with the other ones. I've been pretty slammed with trying to get some M8 hardware stuff out of the way because all of those things always takes weeks. You know, like I'll design a thing overnight, send it out, and then wait a week or wait 2 weeks even to get a thing back. So I sent out stuff earlier this week to have done, and I didn't really get a response. And then I realized it said it would ship around the 19th because I totally forgot that there's the Chinese New Year. So, yay.
Very exciting.
Yeah. But I also ordered a couple days ago. I have at least 7 different new micro SD cards to try out for sample streaming. I've tested some like super cheap micro center cards off Amazon. Like I think it was like $6 for the 32 gigabyte and $9 for the 64 gigabyte. And I tested the 32, 64, and 128, and they all work great. They work better than the SanDisk cards that M8 came with, which got me kind of excited. So I went on a buying spree to test a bunch more.
All right. I know somebody asked about this. I'm sure you haven't thought this far out, but regarding like when it's time for pre-order, are you going to have micro SD card options, or are you just going to send everyone the same card?
That'd be great if I was somebody who was set up to do that.
Yeah.
But in order for me to do that, I would need to have either a stock or a vendor to work with.
Makes sense.
Since I'm not a store, it's a little bit more difficult.
Yeah, because I know there are some people that wanted the Lexar cards
Yeah.
and they can't get them, and they're just like, well, what if you just ship me one? It's like,
I think they've all been gone since like November
we bought
of
the
last
whole
year.
stock. We just bought them out.
Well, I think what happened was Amazon did the whatever their Black Friday, Cyber Monday thing was on those cards, and they just all sold out.
Wow.
Because before that is when I initially bought mine, and it was super easy to get them.
Yeah.
So
I got mine. I got 2 of them that day when you're like, oh, they're here in stock and they're discounted. And I just bought 2.
Yeah.
So like, I'm not gonna waste any time. Just get them. And they've been good, but so were the other cards. I never really had any issues with any of the ones. The ones they came with, the Transcend worked perfectly fine for me. and the Lexos. They all. I
Yeah,
don't.
the
Maybe I'm
Transcend
just not
one,
pushing it hard
the
enough.
Transcend one was interesting because it worked really great. But if I left just a single loop, song with 3 samples play for 8 minutes, it would eventually just die. And you'd
Huh.
have to like restart the M8 or restart the song, I think. But it would just like once every 8 minutes just crap itself.
Interesting. I never
So,
tried that.
yeah.
Instead, I've been using those for just like other random things like guitar pedal firmware updates shit.
Right.
So
Yeah, I have so many after this project. I have so many
yeah.
cards laying around. It's so crazy now that you could buy like 512 gigabyte micro SD card or 1 terabyte micro SD. Like that's so crazy that you could buy that stuff now.
Yeah. It's very
We
easy to lose them too.
How could we be so far in the future but yet so far in the past at the same time?
Or you could be like Tanner and sit on it, snap it in half, day one.
Yeah. So, I don't know what topic we should start with. I could try digging into the FM a little bit to try to make sense of it all.
Yeah, we can make a little noise, and then we can go over all the performance and sync stuff since they're related.
Right. Okay. And I think Impbox, did you want to demo some stuff on FM too, or are you even set up for that? I don't know.
I'm not really set up for it.
Oh, okay. Because I thought it was you or somebody that mentioned how they translate patches from Delphi Mask or whatever that program's called.
I want to do that at some point.
Oh yeah, we don't have to. No worries, it's fine. I was just curious if anybody else had any FME things they wanted to share while we're digging into that topic right now. Let me set up.
Hi, Jelly.
All right, I should be sharing my M8.
I will
So-
never get over your fancy overlay.
Yeah. Yeah, someday I should go over that. It's just Touch Designer with a virtual model of a M8. I wanted it because I thought it would be easier when I did live streams to show people like what buttons I'm pressing. But I think it's still confusing because you press buttons so quickly. I don't know how helpful it is. But let me delete a bunch of stuff here. So I know I've covered FM in the past, so I don't know how many major questions we have regarding this. I guess the important thing if you're planning on designing an FM instrument, if you're new to FM or if you're not, is understanding my text-based algorithm display here, which I don't remember if I went over in a previous meetup or not. Did I? You had touched on it loosely.
I think you lightly touched on it, but didn't really. I suppose
Yeah.
kind of going over like different uses for different algorithms would be cool.
Yeah, so this algorithm 0 is it says A, arrow to B, arrow to C, arrow to D. And that means A is modulating B, and B is modulating C, and D is getting all that stuff and outputting. Some of these more complex ones, though, with the brackets denote the things inside the brackets happen first, and then those things inside the bracket get applied to the destination. So if we look at this, it's A's operator plus B's operator plus C's operator. Basically, they get mixed together, and their output modulates the pitch of D. That should pretty much be it. The thing to keep in mind is, or what I like to look at these as, is I always look at these as how many operators or oscillators are actually outputting sound. I'm pretty sure I did cover this, but I'll just say it again. That so this one here, algorithm 8, basically has three outputs. B, C, and D are generating sound output, whereas A is always modulating all three of their pitches or their ratios, or no, their pitches. I don't know. I guess ratio is kind of confusing when you just look at it without knowing FM, but all ratio is a multiplier of the base note. So ratio of 1, that means when you're playing note C4, it's actually playing at the pitch C4. 2 would be a C4 times 2, which would be C5, right? So you look at this as kind of like a multiplication of the original pitch.
Yeah, Impbox said it's kind of like it's modulating the phase of it, right?
Yeah. I mean that's the you could look at it two different ways, right? The technical way is most FM synths, including this one, are modulating the phase position of the oscillator. Another way to think of it because I think that demands more technical knowledge. Like I remember hearing, oh, well, it's really phase modulation, like many years ago when I didn't know any DSP or any of that stuff. So I didn't know what that meant. I just knew that it was something different than frequency. So in my mind, it's kind of easier to just think of it like modulating the frequency, like a vibrato or, an LFO, a really fast LFO assigned to pitch. I think it's just it's a lot easier to visualize that than to say like it's modulating the phase of the, because that doesn't mean anything unless you kind of are in it. I think, at least that's my perspective. I could be totally wrong in that.
Regarding your the algorithms that you've chosen for the FM synth, are they based from any other particular FM architecture, or are these all new algorithms?
I mean, there's only so many options you could have
Right.
for oscillator FM synth. I went through a bunch of different synths and tried to find at least 4 operator synths, and like looked at all of their algorithm selections and tried to find one that kind of suited M8 best and had the most flexibility. This stack is similar to Reface DX, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, I think that someone was asking.
Yeah.
How they varies from like a DX100, for example.
You're totally different.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was hard to find like the right, because I didn't do a ton of research, but I did enough to be like, okay, well, this wheel has been invented at least a dozen times, so let me find the wheel that suits that M8 best. And this ended up being the selection here. I don't remember. Is that 10, 11, 12? 12, yeah, that's right. 12 different algorithms. Something like a DX7 has like 31, I think. But then again, it also has 6 operators, so there's a lot more kind of combinations that you could go through with, 6. Some may say it's exponential as you add more operators. In a perfect world, M8 would be emulating the Yamaha FS1R, which, if you don't know, is like a 16 operator, or 8 voiced and 8 unvoiced FM synth from Yamaha. So maybe I should try doing a DX, like how I'd translate a DX7 patch to M8.
Make some more Taco Bell gongs.
Yeah, so I'm gonna switch my screen. It's that one. Yay. Can you see that okay?
It's pretty clear.
Are you being sarcastic?
It's a little fuzzy, but I can I also don't wear glasses.
Oh, so
No, it's fine.
so this is I'm using Arturia's DX7V because its UI is super simple and it's awesome. The issue, of course, if you wanted to translate any DX7 patch to the M8 is the number of operators is totally different. In DX7, there's 6. So I guess the very first step I would do is to try to find a patch that I want to try to make. So how about something that's brassy? Also, the only thing that's like annoying with the Arturia stuff, it all sounds great, but like switching patches always takes forever for some reason on my computers. Meh. Switch. See how long that takes? Maybe not something brass. Well, that one sounds easy enough. So if you look here, this is the diagram of the DX7. And since M8 only has 4 operators, I have to turn off some operators so that way it still has kind of the same sound, but it just uses 4. So the very first thing I do is start turning off operators to figure out like what I can get away with. So in here, there's 2 stacks that are going to the output. I'm going to first try disabling the simplest one, which is this 2 to 1. If I disable that, how do I? Can I just? Oh, it's already set to 0 anyway. I think, unless I'm reading that wrong. Is that technically off? Let me figure out how to use this again. Yeah, so this is pretty much a 4 operator patch. Oh, that's what I do. I right click. Okay, so I can turn that off. All right, so this is the structure that I need to basically mimic here, which would be, let's see, one operator goes into here, and then this one into this one into this one. So I have to find the equivalent algorithm. Let's see, there's, so we have 2 sets of modulators going into one output. So that would be maybe this guy, because this is the one output. And so A and B would be the similar thing as this stack right here, plus C, which is this guy right here, goes into the output. So this is it right here. It was pretty easy. The next thing I would do is copy the ratios, I think, which in this plugin, there are these numbers here, the frequency course values. Let me disable that guy. So operator 6 seems to be the only one that's actually cranked up to 3. And operator 6 is our operator A. There we go. Or is it? That's 5. No, the 3 and a fine tune of 5. I could do that maybe. The next thing I do is look at this feedback knob, because that's going to change kind of the sound of everything. And in this patch, only operator 4 has feedback, which is our lonely C. So I'm turning up the feedback of operator C to match that. The next thing, the more complicated thing, is obviously the envelopes, especially in M8. The envelopes in M8 are much more simpler. These are ADSR stacks, and M8 only has a HD. But usually you get it pretty close. So it's just not really one-to-one, so it's not like one could write a script to do it, because you kind of need to use your ear a little bit to figure it out. Am I boring everybody yet? I'll take that as a yes. So
This is very educational.
is it really?
Actually seeing the map and then comparing it to the algorithm on the M8 actually makes that make sense now when I look at that.
Makes this
It's
one
handy.
make sense, or makes this one make sense?
Both ways.
Yeah.
Both ways.
Yeah. So, yeah, I wish I could. You know, I get my little text-based thing is kind of a hack because I don't really have that much real estate in the GUI. So I went for the easiest approach of seeing if I could get away with just using text. It seems to work well enough. It might be more. I don't know which one's more confusing. I guess obviously the visual aid is easier to understand than my text-based one.
I mean, since the workflow is left to right in terms of what's going into what, it makes it pretty straightforward as opposed to looking at a map where you're like, okay, everything's spread out and you're looking at a flow chart.
Right.
So for me, the left to right makes more sense.
That's so fast. So I think like these two envelopes are the primary. Maybe this one too. Yeah, I think these what is that? Operator 6 and operator 4 are kind of doing most of the work sound-wise. I'm just watching the little cursor animate across the envelope to figure out. Since M8, you only have 2 envelopes without diving into tables, which is when I'm doing this is kind of my last resort because envelopes are a lot easier to manage. I look for the operators that have the slowest envelopes that are set up, because something like this one here that just kind of flickers across all of these stages, I don't think really adds anything to the characteristic that we're listening to. So I'm going to set up an envelope on operator 6 and operator 4. This is where it gets confusing because I have to translate that. Operator 6 is A. So I'm going to set this up to this is the ratio, I think, right? Yeah, they're set up to the ratio pitch envelope modulation. And what is 4 is the one with feedback, C. I'm probably going to get this all wrong by the time I actually start making sound, but it'll be fun to get there. What did I do that for? So I assigned modulator 2 to ratio. Modulator 2 is this value here. And on operator C, I assigned mod 3 to ratio, which is the next one down. The reason why I didn't use mod 1 is because when I make these patches, I normally want mod 1 to be kind of like something that the user would, or I myself even, would tweak to adjust the sound. So I kind of use this as like the, what'd you call that? Like the macro to make changes without having to dig into the structure. So I leave mod 1 free. It's just kind of the way I've been working on these. So let's see. This one will be 2 and 3. 2 and 3. On 2 is this one. So let's just kind of guess this. And this one. Slow attack. And a kind of a weird sustaining thing. All right. Let's just wing it. See how close we could get. So I basically turned their amounts down because I'm just gonna play the note. Whoa, so loud. So that sounds nothing like it, which I knew would happen. Bring that, let's see, operator. I'm bringing down their levels right now. Try to tame this thing. That sounds nothing like it. Let's see, where did I screw up? I bet this is weird. Operator. Let's get rid of everybody. Now I'm going to get lost. I'm going to turn these off, so I'm only dealing with operator 4 to 3. Thing's fine. C goes into D. That's correct, right? And I turned these off. Why do you sound so gross? Oh. Yeah. This should be assigned to level and not ratio. That's where I messed up. Hey, I hear a thing now. Bring that back up. Do I have a... Hold on. I do. I had a global transpose enabled. That's what you get for not starting off fresh. Let's do a hold. Come on. So I'm going to do, let's see. I'm going to do a volume on using the table, I think. There's a million ways to slice this. I probably could have used I could have easily used the table to do this envelope to free up some stuff. I could also actually use the LFO to do the volume. Let's do that for now. And set to ramp down, maybe? Trying to think if, yeah, this should be fine. Oops. Messed that up. Get the idea. I'm going to turn on these guys. It's so weird that the right click is to enable or disable these. And I'm going to disable op4 just to keep my mind from going insane. Huh. Really doesn't add that much, but we'll do it. I'm going to turn down op C for now. So we're back to just a sine wave. And turn these up. Really doesn't add that much to. It's super subtle as far as the. I don't even know if you guys can hear that or not.
Really, really soft vibrato sound.
It's almost
Yeah.
like. Let me change the. How do I change the engine in this? Oh yeah, modern. Oh, that got rid of all the fuzz. Yeah, it's like super quiet. Where's the volume in this guy? I thought it was this slider here, but it is. Whatever, I just make something better. Oops, where did I go? There. Get the idea though. That's pretty close. I mean, not really, but some sounds are easier to emulate than others is what I've found. That's really brassy. And that's not at all. So let me try to make that more brassy. Whoa. Oh god. I don't like how slow the envelope is acting on C, so I'm going to take this off.
Inbox suggests some feedback on the carrier, perhaps.
That would make the carrier, well, obviously the DX7 can't even do that, but that'd make the carrier more, yeah, I guess you're right. It'd make it sound more brassy. Like if we're no longer trying to get perfectly accurate. Yeah, mod 3. Doesn't have the same loveliness, that's for sure. It's kind of like, it's got like I almost want to use a table to do that second kind of trigger that happens.
That would definitely be a good use for the table.
Yeah. Instead of using, because right now I'm using an attack to kind of delay that. Yeah, so if I wanted to use a table for this mod 3, I could, oh, I didn't need to do that. Get rid of the assignment here. And then in the table, I'm going to do FM3, I think. That's what it was, yeah, 3. And if we want to do a delay first, it would be use a rep. And I'm disassociate this. Ooh. That's good enough. And then do a rep. How would I do that? Oh, I'd do 2 FM3s, one at 7F, and one going down. Wait, I don't need a... Yeah. 3? Wait, no, a whole bunch. Why don't you have to just do a hop? Not quite enough. So I think because the disadvantage to the M8 here is because the relative commands can only go up 7F before it starts going down. I need to basically have 2 of these in order to get the full range.
Could you use 2? Could they be additive if you had them on the same?
I could do that. And then get rid of that one. And then put a hop there. So yeah, that would be additive. It would add these 2 together. The only thing that sucks with that is it doesn't have the initial attack portion, which I guess I could add. Let's see, we want to go up like a whole bunch, right? But fast. Move these down more. And I'm gonna want a rep. Rep. Still too fast. There we go.
It was good with the rep 10 there.
Don't
That's
ask me how
cool.
that works.
That actually gives it kind of a less linear of a attack slope doing it that way.
Right.
Which is really cool.
Anyways, we get the idea. Could always add a little detune in there to give it.
Look at that beautiful oscillator waveform. That's a dirty looking wave.
So that gives an idea of how to. I'm gonna save this patch. Of how to translate a DX7 patch, or my method of what I was doing with some of my patches. I've showed those before, I think too. I'm gonna call this Brass 7, even though it's not quite close enough to call it a clone, because it's a bit different for sure. Brass 7. Save. Yeah. Like all of these ones is how I went through that process, and I think there's an old stream on my Twitch that shows me actually making most of these. I think. I'm not sure if I actually did that or not.
It's definitely a good way to get familiar with FM and what's doing what and that kind of thing.
Yeah, when I do FM, like if I want to make a sound with FM, what I think of is how many oscillators do I want at the same time. So if I want like something that has like a sub note, like a note that's an octave lower, then I know I need at least 2 that are going to the output, right? And then if I want, I I guess that's pretty much it. How I do it, and if I want like something that has like a high kind of timbre quality to it, then I know that's going to be a modulator with a high ratio. And if I know that the sound I want is more of a saw wave or has more sharpness to it versus a sine, then I know that the output is going to have some feedback. And just knowing those steers which algorithm I use, steers which what the feedback levels should be in a rough ballpark. And then after that, it's just fine tuning. I don't know if that makes any sense, but that's my approach to FM sound design, which is super basic, because I know that you could make some pretty incredible sounds, and I admire those people that could do that. But for me, I just want like basic, almost subtractive synthesis. It's kind of like my same approach to Eurorack, actually, and probably the reason why I don't really like Eurorack modules is I always end up just making a subtractive synth. But that's just kind of the stuff I'm into, I guess.
It's interesting because a lot of Eurorack stuff has, or at least with like VCOs, you generally have FM sources or places to add additional modulation sources as FM, and that's kind of like where I kind of really started to understand it was, putting this oscillator into this oscillator or this LFO into this oscillator and seeing what's happening.
Right.
So, yeah.
Another thing you could do too with M8 that's kind of unique. Well, there's a couple things that make M8 somewhat unique in the world of FM. One of them is it's not necessarily usual to have every operator allow feedback. I think there's a couple. There's a million different FM synths out there, so I'm sure some of them do that. But that's one of the unique things that most, if you're trying to do DX patches or OPL, I think doesn't do that either. But those kind of classic ones don't have, is every operator can do a feedback. And normally how I look at feedback is like, it makes it into a saw wave, kind of, is how I look at feedback, or into a noisy mess. Where was the patch I just made? What did I call it? Brass 7. Yeah. Another thing you could do, I shouldn't have saved it with those on. Another thing you could do is set the limiter to sine wave mode. And then you kind of have like an additional FME sound on top of it. Which, you could pretty much do that with any of the M8 synths. But it's just an interesting idea that you have that. And then you also have vibrato extreme as a command, or extreme vibrato. It's a terrible name for this, but you could kind of get into audio rate pitch modulation just with this command alone. It's actually pretty neat.
That sounds really good.
It's also fun to try the PVX on samples.
I haven't done that.
Yeah, especially with vocals and that kind of stuff. It adds like another kind of textural layer to the sample. Yeah. Interesting to do. I wonder if I could show that now. I don't have any voice samples on my SD card, I think. But I could try it with... we're getting out of FM now, but... what should I try it on? The other interesting thing is if you have like a drum loop, it doesn't, even though it's pitch modulation, because it's a sinusoidal modulation, or I don't even know if it's sinusoidal to be technical. It might be a triangle wave on the vibrato, but since it is even slope on the positive and the negative of the pitch, if you do a drum loop, the drum loop still stays in time, which is pretty neat. Let me try that with a drum loop. How about that? Yeah. Ooh.
That's really cool. I never even thought about using vibrato like that. Now I want to use it on everything.
Yeah, it's pretty neat. Yeah. So, as far as FM goes, hopefully that little, I don't even count that as a tutorial, but hopefully that sheds a little bit of light on the whole process. It's a complicated topic, FM. But like on all things on M8, don't be afraid to experiment and break things, because that's kind of how you learn stuff.
Yes, thank you for that. That was educational for me for sure.
And that's my story.
Did anyone have any questions regarding anything uh involving that? So yeah, check the chat, see if I missed any questions here. Tables are additive. Yep. Very handy. Very, very, very handy. Yeah, it looks like they just showed off some graphs in chat. I don't see any questions.
They were getting really technical.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm just kidding. I
Tables
haven't looked.
tables are fantastic for additional or different shaped envelopes. Highly recommend anyone who hasn't really been messing with tables to try making some envelopes using just the tables instead of your assignable envelopes to see what kind of results you can get. You can get really cool slopes and speeds and shapes just by adjusting the rep command and hop command and adjusting your value of whatever you're trying to make as an envelope. Yeah.
So
That
are you
was
gonna try
yeah.
some extreme vibrato now?
Yeah, oh definitely. I'm gonna be putting it on everything. It's gonna be my new hot sauce. Guess if nobody has any questions regarding that, we could talk about some of the other stuff that we got.
Like what? We go into
Well,
MIDI or like performancey
MIDI
things?
or live performance. At least for me with MIDI stuff, it's generally just hooking up one external synth and running it back in, and it's about it. I guess you could do that and then go over, you know, sampling. But we kind of went over sampling before, so I'm not sure if we want a refresher on that or not. Depends. Live performance questions, I guess. See, people are requesting.
And there's a couple
So
different live performance topics. Like you could look at it like MIDI mapping parameters and using live mode, and your techniques on using mutes.
yeah,
You could also look at like using stems in M8, which is
yeah.
one of my use cases.
So I did want to go. I remember last time someone asked about using live mode with just independent chains as opposed to a full song arrangement. So I did start working on something that I showed in a video recently. That's a very, very early work in progress, and how to use the M8 using how to make like variety using the least amount of loops, I guess. So kind of treating it more like a nano loop type device. Um, so that's something I could go over if people are interested in that. And then I could also go over just general live performance workflow. I can actually do like a very small live performance type the way I have it set up for most of my stuff. Just depends on what we want to cover first, I suppose. So let's see. Yeah. Um, I could start with making the most out of little loops and go from there. So let me get screen share going and I can do that. Let's get this set up. Okay. All right. Wow. All right. Yeah. So my screen should be shared now. Hello, everyone. I'll wave the camera. I have pretty much a very rudimentary setup here. For this demo, for this first demo that I'm going to do, I'm not going to be using my external Actually, I will. I will be. This is just a monophonic bass synthesizer that I'm using track 3. I set it up here. Very, very basic. I believe these CC values I'm not going to be using for this, but they just they trigger. One of them is for cutoff control, so I could do really wacky modulation that I can't just do by twisting the knob. Um,
I don't know if we
with
went
that,
over this before, not to super interrupt you, but real quick, the whole MIDI screen for M8 for an instrument, like how it has CCA through J, you know. The thing with MIDI CCs is you could have the control number, and what M8 does is the first, one, it allows you to assign the control number as well as the value for that control number. So, as seen here, he has CCE set up for 80. So it's going to be sending controller in number 80. And then for CCF, it's 74. And that's in decimal because obviously it's in decimal to save you some brain because most CC documentation is always in decimal representation. So
bank throws me off a little bit because 000 is actually 1. So whenever I send
is it really?
Yeah, so when I send bank 9, it opens up bank 10 on my Hydrosynth, for example.
That sounds like a bug.
That may be a bug.
Or
Something that
maybe,
can be...
because I'm sending the raw value and everybody displays that raw value as like
Yeah.
0 or as, yeah. So
I think
I'm displaying it as 0 base and everybody else like says it. Is that common for program change number in bank? Well, program change number, like a lot of synths start at 0, especially old synths.
I'm not sure. I think it varies. I think I have to double check with my Hydrosynth, but I think my Hydrosynth also sees it as 1. It sees it as 1 more than what the M8 gives it.
Because
I'll
like
double check.
most of my hardware synths, like the presets start at 0, and work their way up. I suppose a lot of newer synths probably start at 1 and work their way up. But if it starts at 1, then it's going to be off by 1.
Yeah. Yeah. Not sure. I'll double check with my stuff
Meh.
after this. Maybe see. Yeah,
First world problems.
I know that I know now that it's slightly different value and it's not really end of the world. Yeah, MIDI channel 1 is seen as 1. Yeah. So where was I going with this? So I think I have like.
Sorry for interrupting.
No, I think I have F set to filter, for example, and E is set to. I have an additional envelope that I can trigger that I don't have control over, so I can send some extra modulation if I want it. For this, I'm not using that. I'm just have my basic.
The cool thing with that MIDI instrument screen is you could then, like what you did there, you named the MIDI instrument, which makes it rad for if you have a bunch of different gear, you could basically pre-fill out all of the CCs that you're gonna control at any point in time, like forever having the gear, and then save that as a preset, so that way you don't have to remember all the CCs ever. You could just save it.
Yep. In fact, for my Hydrosynth, for example, I have made a new folder in my MIDI instruments for each of the different patches, and so I can just call those patches like that, and it's so fast. And that makes it really nice. So if I'm playing a set and I want my synth to actually act as 3 different instruments, I can just pop in and out of them real fast. Yeah. Super handy. Yeah. So here is my little work in progress I started a couple nights ago. As you can see, there's not a whole lot going on. I have, oops, I think I just
You went into the
everything.
matrix.
I went into the matrix. All right. So, excuse me here. I actually opened up a second instance. All right. I gotta not touch my keyboard. So I have basically, we have just a little paraphonic wave here. I have I have this 2 hour long clip of neural AI generated drum loops going on here. And I've just used some V commands here to not really chop it up, but give it some sort of staccato kind of on off. And then the start point, because I just found a good sounding loop from that point. Yeah, as you can see, but when I'm...
Wait, that's from that AI generated thing or whatever?
Yep.
I could tell because it's got that weird sizzle.
Yeah, it's very like spectral smeary.
Yeah.
And then to complement it, I have an actual drum loop with some actual
midtones in there.
Yeah. So it sounds pretty good. And then I have an FM synth that it's a little crunchy. I was kind of going for like a YouTube bass boosted kind of sound. So this is my fake nano loop style setup here. As you see, everything's kind of scattered out about, and I mean, it's a pretty simple loop. I'll just play the whole loop real quick. So. Okay, so that's the whole loop. I know not everyone is into making full song arrangements. That's not everyone's workflow. Some people just want to make, loops, and they just want to play loops, and they want to know, okay, how can I maximize the loop use? So I'm just going to play with the arrangement in the same way that I would if I was trying to do something kind of improvisational. If you can remind me to talk, excuse me, if you can remind me to talk while I'm doing this, so I can kind of like speak my thoughts of what I'm doing. Yeah, just say, hey, tell me what you're doing.
Just hook up your mind reading mic and.
Yeah, exactly. But there's a actually before I, yeah. So I'll just start, and then I can try and talk about it. But I'm going to be using a combination of just changing which clips I'm playing, muting, soloing, group muting, group soloing, just so you can see that even with just 4 or 5 clips, you could build a 30-second, 2-minute clip just by keeping things interesting. It helps that I do have an external synthesizer that I'm able to manipulate so that the variety, I can get some different changes and stuff. With the M8, you could also you could assign like a MIDI controller to any of the parameters within your synths. For example, I could probably assign the touchscreen to, let's see what gets the. So like for this example, I'm going to assign the touchscreen to this. Oh, maybe I should do it through the mod source here. There we go. I don't know what that's affecting, if anything. It doesn't seem like it's really changing a whole lot. So, but you get the idea. Can I do that here? No, it doesn't seem to like that. Anyway, you get the idea. I could assign like all my instruments like cutoff filter or cutoff values to the touch screen, and then I could manipulate that, and then that adds another layer of variety and depth to the same loops. So I mean, you do the same approach for any sort of DAW setup, or not DAW setup, I guess, if you're just doing some hardware stuff. So let's go ahead and get this going. I'll just start at the beginning here, and I'll try to treat it the way I would if this was live. Usually, for a lot of my live stuff, I tend to have like full song arrangements. But when I was doing Eurorack and using NerdSeek, it ended up being like I've turned it into more of a fusion of the two. So I'll just do this little loop. So, and you let me know if my voice is not loud enough. I'm gonna switch over to live mode so I don't affect everything at the same time. If I hold left and start, it starts the whole row. Not that I need that. do a group solo. Cut this out. Bring this back in. Solo. Doing some quick mutes. Bring everything in, then cut the bass. This whole presentation was just an excuse for me to play with my Avalon bass line. Go in, some reverb. Bring everything back in. Bring this out. And then I want to cut the chords. Go in. I'm going to play with that pedal. You get the idea. Yeah, instrument reset would be pretty cool. Cool idea.
You could copy the instrument first, and then when you're done tweaking it, paste it.
Just paste it back. That's a really good idea. And then let's just cut it. So yeah, that was a pretty decent runtime for. I mean, this is literally,
I'm clapping.
Yeah, thank you. This is 5 different loops, and it's just what each of them is 2 bars, and that's it. I mean, as far as when it comes to a live hardware improvisational set, you don't need more than that. I mean, you kind of need more than that, but you know what I mean.
Just transpose it, and then you have twice as many.
Yeah. But that's a good example of doing a set without having to create some extravagant thing. In fact, there's a guy on YouTube that I really like. Goes by Ricky Tinez. He works for Novation. And he does a lot of hardware and semi-DAWless jamming stuff. And I recommend checking out his videos because he kind of goes over live hardware and how to add variety to something where you're locked into patterns. And it's actually kind of helped me rethink of how I approach a lot of both live performances and how when I'm actually taking this and sculpting it into an actual full track. So for something like that, let's do a hardware track. This one here. This originally just started off as just a real simple little slow acid jam, and
I wish this was stereo.
Yeah,
I blame Discord.
apologize. Yeah, thanks Discord.
Give us stereo Discord.
Please. Where was I going with this? Yeah, so this ended up starting off as one of those jams that I just did, and basically I would work on it and then just start to sculpt out the way I would cut and bring things back in, and just ended up that becoming my arrangement. And I ended up with something like this. This would be a more like full track. This one is just all M8 stuff. Just little electro jam. A little bit faster. And then I have like the Avalon bass line coming here. Avalon has key tracking for the cutoff, which is amazing. But you get the idea. And I think with this one, I actually do use that CCF command here as like an additional auto auto kind of automation on the filter. So then I'm editing the cutoff, and it's also kind of punching in these random modulations or random controlled automations for some extra variety. So this is set up more of like my actual a live project for a single song, where I tend to have a starting cue that just loops over and over again. The idea would be that I would actually have maybe 2 M8s, and I would have like a cue in and cue out, kind of like if you're DJing, you set up your little intro and outro cues so that you can uh, smoothly blend the 2 tracks in and out of each other. So that's how I usually have it set up. So I'll just have this, the other song is playing, and I'll bring this one in, drop the other one out, and then I can start to cue the actual song, maybe like down here. Or if I were starting, the set with this, I'd probably just start it at row 2. And then same for the outro, instead of the song is ending, instead of letting it drop out with the FE here, which is a hop FF command, which stops the track altogether before it gets to there, I can just hop to my outro cue and then rinse and repeat with my other tracks. I also have projects like this one where it's kind of a fusion of the two, where I have multiple songs all in one project. So I have this track here, and then I have this like one up here, and then I just kind of blend between them as I move down slowly but surely. So comes down to what kind of workflow you want, but they're both completely useful, valid modes of playing. So yeah. Did anyone have any questions regarding that? If you want, I could do another little quick jam thing, or just depends on what people are interested in. Yeah. Ideally, when I had if I had another M8, I could actually screen or share 2 instances of the screens at the same time, and you could actually see how I kind of bounce between the 2 of them. Yeah, I could do another little jam. So I could play just a few minutes, just something real simple. So yeah, I could do here's an actual track for the most part here. I'll just play. Actually, you know what? I have one that I'm working on. Let me see if I can figure out where I put it. This one's kind of, I started this one. So I had a track that I made with NerdSeek with my Eurorack, and I missed it, and I don't have NerdSeek anymore. So I don't have access to the project file. So this was my attempt at kind of remaking it from scratch. So it's a little rough, but I'll play this and just loop it over, and yeah, I'll just. That's just a little sine wave where I just slowly increase the decay. The bass synth I have assigned to this touchscreen here. Cut off. Sidechain is just using the V command, and I just interpolated from the lowest value to the highest for each time the kick drum comes in. So it's fake sidechain on top of the limiter. Percussions use a little bit of work. Sappy acid song. Whoops. Enjoy that. solo, group view. You get the idea. Like, have it like fast enough. Oh, I just actually had it down here. No, I can drop this in real quick so that this loops over, and then set up my next song if I had a second device, or I could just queue into another song. So this one's getting ready, and I'll just drop into my next track here. This one should start right away, and it's actually 140, so. Yeah, oh, it's 135, but you get the idea. So thanks to the instantaneous track loading, you could set up a whole set of just different projects if you really wanted to. And again, that's one of the handy things of having these outro cues, is that way you could have that looping over and over again while you figure out what song you're going to play next or whatever have you. So this track I don't think uses any hardware. Actually, I think, yeah. So you get the idea. Yeah, and again, with a full song arrangement, you have full free range to do all your group solos and group mutes, and it's just as simple as going in and out, and you don't even need any external controllers or anything. You just use this. I can set this to my touchscreen here. You get the idea. If I want to be extra fancy, I'll set this to the other axis. Good use of the touchscreen. And it, I could just, you get the idea. I don't remember how this was set up. I should have copied it, like you were saying. In fact, that would be a good use, is you could bookmark, have this, and be like, okay, in this part of the song, I'm actually going to, whoops, I think I did that too many times. In this song, I'm actually going to have, these patterns be different. I'm going to have a copied one here. And I'll just quickly just paste it. So this is a perfect case use for bookmarks here, or use case. I think that's all of it there. And
Case use is my vaporwave band name.
yeah, so then you would, you're playing your set and you're like, oh, at this part, I want to do some, synth manipulation stuff. And so I know that once it gets past that point, to stop touching the touchscreen, or it's going to switch back over to the instrument that I don't have the XY set to. So, yeah, good way to use bookmarks and how to manipulate things live with a song arrangement as opposed to clip. So both are completely good and valid and useful. And I think a fusion of the two will get you, the songs that you want to be on Rails will be on Rails. And then when you feel like it's time to do something improvisational, you can set it up so you can bounce around for a little bit. So get the best of both worlds. Oh yeah, the plucked instrument, I'm pretty sure, is just
Macro synth, maybe.
Yeah, it's the plucked. Yeah, it's pretty. A lot of macro synth stuff is just nice physical modeling on that. Little shaker. Little fake choke on the string there. And I think that's just paraphonic wave, which definitely I think my favorite of the different shapes that the microsynth has. You get some really, really cool textural stuff using any modulation on the timbre. Yeah, on the timbre. Just let it scrub through all the different wave shapes. Really, really cool. Oh, for sidechaining? So for sidechaining, so I guess one thing we could go over are like uses of classic tracker tricks in a modern tracker. So what I have done, there are a couple of ways you can go about doing side chaining. For this, I don't actually use the master volume. What I'm doing, let me. I think for this one, I'm actually just have the limiter gain just cranked really high, so the kick is just pushing everything down.
Yeah, if you have
But
the kick like quite a bit louder than everything else, then you could always just use the limiter to do that pumping action.
yeah, and you can hear it like turn up way like right there. You can really hear the pumping action. So that's like the quote unquote real way to do it. But for let me think of a track that uses it. I think I think this track does. So I can just cut all these instruments so you can really hear it. But in this case here, I'm just using the V column on this synth and just starting at a low value and going up. You know, that's like the traditional tracker way to do it. And then all you need to do is, if you want it to be tied to like your kick drum, for example, you just make sure that they start on the same step. You know, so if I'm doing like, if I'm doing something like this, I would take this and let's take a look. You just drop it here. This one's here. This one's here, and then copy that. So now it should. Oops. So that's one way you could do it. You could also do that with just the attack envelope. If you have it assigned to the volume here, you could just you could set the attack just to have to like something like 10. Oops, sorry. The amount you want all the way up. The attack, you could set the attack, and then you could have a straight, just like this, and then you could do like this.
Then you have to take out the instrument column.
Yep. You're right. Just a second here. There you
So
are.
every time that instrument will play, it'll with that instrument number, and it'll re-trigger the envelope.
Give the hole all the way up. Turn this. And then you'd set it like. Oops, I'm pushing buttons too fast. If you wanted to be more extreme. But if you wanted to, you could also, if you wanted to preserve instruments, even though you have 128 of them or 256, you could also, like for like one instance, you could change the attack value and then, like have a envelope retrigger. Where's it at? Envelope trigger retrigger. Yeah, so something like that, and then it'll you can hear it did it again. Yeah, so there are so many ways. You could also set it up in a table too, if you really wanted. You could set your since 7F is not actually changing the instrument value here to 7F. That's just the 7F represents what the peak volume that you have it set to in the phrase. Is that right? So
the velocity column in table is is basically a 0 to 1 multiplier of the original velocity.
I see.
So it doesn't overwrite the velocity in the phrase. It works with the velocity in phrase.
Yeah. So you could have something like this, right? And then obviously it's going to retrigger every time the instrument retriggers as well. So there are multiple solutions to the same situation. It's just how do you want to do it? What what things you're already using. Maybe all your FX columns are filled with random and chance, and maybe you're using both of your envelope shapes or all your envelopes and LFOs for other values, and you still want the sidechain. You have an option using a table, and maybe you don't want that table to happen every time. You could, you could clone the instrument, for example, and have two different instances where one the sidechain triggers and one where it doesn't. So, lot of options.
Too
I'm
many
gonna load
options.
too many options, but yeah, it's nice because that means that
You could also loop back MIDI and assign no.
I mean, I think I did that for the to get sidechain on the reverb. I did MIDI loopback, and that's something you can do. I mean, at this point, it's easier to just record the wet signal, the reverb, put it on a track, sidechain it manually, then render the dry and the wet together, and then paste that into a new track, and then you've worked it out. So many ways to do stuff, the same thing. So, uh, did anyone have any questions regarding any of the live performance stuff, or anything that I covered? Tracker tricks, same. There's so many classic tracker tricks like single channel echo. If you didn't have a delay send, for example, if you're trying to do some like chip tuning, twinkle, delay kind of stuff, or you could use 2 or 3. It just depends on what you want to do. Yeah. Let's see. Single channel echo with an external MIDI. Yeah. I think a lot of more modern MIDI devices actually, or MIDI instruments have like a MIDI delay algorithm, right? Where it just automatically creates like a fake echo. Yeah, pyramid. Pretty cool. I liked that was set up, and I think retro kits, they have a special MIDI cable that allows you to do kind of things like that as well. So it's pretty cool, especially for like older devices that don't have that. You could implement it or map it that way. So yeah, I don't see any other questions. So I think if as far as performance stuff, that's all I got for you.
Show us more. I don't want to do any more work. I'm kidding.
Yeah, yeah. And then all my MIDI setup stuff is pretty rudimentary, so I don't know what kind of more in-depth MIDI setup stuff you could do because I just use it as a way to access all my external synthesizers. So yeah, thank you.
That was some inspiring stuff. Thanks for the drum beat too. So, was that your outro? Hey, Mikey, if you were unaware, you are sending music to us. Unless it's a feature. So I guess I could show, I could show one of my use cases, which is to use M8 as a stemming playback. It's all good. That was your outro music.
That was outro music.
Yeah. But I don't know if anybody's interested in looking at how I do that. But I replaced what I use Octatrack for in my live sets was I would render out my songs as stems, and my rule was every stem has to be like, say there's a bass guitar in a song, it has to be 128 measures. So even if it's not 128 measures, I'd render it that long. And then on the Octatrack, that enabled me to use the sample start. I don't remember what they call it, but the offset, because it's a range from 0 to 127, allowed me to use that to pick which part of the song I wanted to play for that given track. Let's see. Let me set up a stream here. Beep. Turn on camera. There we go. So I'm going to go to, not live, I'm going to go to new. And load in a sample. I have my live folder here that has all of these songs in it. Here's Thea, or it's a good one. Let's do Last Dance. So these are all my stems for Last Dance of all the, because this song uses a lot of different tracks from different instruments from the studio, whether it's plugins or actual keyboards and stuff. But in a live set, I'm not going to bring all that gear, so I would just render out all the stems, including stuff that was Game Boy, and put it all on the Octatrack, so that enables me in live situation to cue, go to verse 1, go to chorus now, allows me to change the song structure in a real-time fashion. And even the chippy stuff, even if I have the gear with me on stage, I render it out so that way I have a reference track. So when I need to actually add in the Game Boy notes with the real gear, I have a reference track so I know, what the melody exactly was. So I don't know why all these are named weird, but we'll give it a shot. Let's go to edit and see what this is. A lot of silence. All right. So I'm going to just load these in real quick. Might be the fastest way to do that. Wish these were named better. This makes it kind of hard. Last Dance with You. Number 2. Number 3. So all these are different samples that I'm just loading in. Where's number 4? There it is. Number 5. Normally there's like, what I do is like 8 stems, up to 7, I guess. So sort the list here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7. All right, fine. Yeah. So now I have all those loaded. I think off of memory, this song is 133 beats per minute. All right, I'm going to turn up the volume. Maybe I should do that. Do that on the song. So yeah, that's 133 beats per minute. This is just one portion of this track. But if I use the, let's see, the sample start command here. So I'm browsing through all of the measures of the entire song. And this song is actually more than 128 measures long. And that's why I have this, this second set of stems, which is the next 128 measures. Now, they're probably not 128 measures long. They're just like maybe 16 or 32 measures. But they're rendered out to have all that extra silence. So that way I could use the the start command to figure out to play back which pattern I want. So if I set this up, hold on, I'm gonna do, yeah, I'm gonna clone. Wait, I'm gonna clone. I forgot that I could deep clone. Oops. Whee. Whoa, that's not what I wanted to do. So I think there's 6, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah. So now I'm just going to go through all, set them all to their right instruments. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's it. So this song like starts off with that ticking thing. So I'm gonna actually make that its own phrase or its own song row. So that way it just loops forever. Which track is that? Number 3. Yeah. Set these up. So basically I'm just playing back, 7 stems of samples. And I need one more row on that. Right. So once I have that one, that'll be my intro. Oops, shouldn't do that. Hold on, I'm gonna reset some things here. I'm not gonna do this for the whole song, but once you start doing it without trying to talk to people, it actually goes by really quickly to set up these cloned positions. Let's see. Let's go to our drum track, which I think is this one. So everybody needs to start on 12. I used the, because I know that the first, right when the song starts, the drums start. So I found where the drum starts to figure out the start offset. These should all be one shorter, and I just totally messed up. So with this song, the very first, the intro is 1 measure longer than the rest of the song, I think. So I have to, and I totally forgot in M8 you could select all and clone, and that's what I did with this next row. Is I just did, instead of just doing a copy, I did a full clone. So let's see. It's looping that section perfectly too, which is nice. Yeah, so 22 is what I want. So I'm going to go through all these for the next section. Ah, so close. I was going to try to keep the song going. But you kind of get the idea. I'm just basically breaking up the entire song into sections, because that will both enable controlling where in the song everything's playing at, as well as if I want to do a remix, I have the exact area where I could do that in, which is pretty neat. And of course, with all these stems, they're recorded dry, but I could go through them and add in the reverb and all that stuff. Yeah, so that pretty much shows how to use stems in a live situation. This is probably how I'll end up using the M8 in my live sets, just because I use so much external gear for these older songs. And of course, the Game Boy parts, I could just use a different channel and rewrite those in here if I want to go through that. Another option you could do is, if I wanted to do like any kind of effects to this, I can. So if I have this part here, hold on. Just too much reverb. I went kind of crazy with it.
Chat is demanding extreme vibrato.
What? Try the extreme vibrato. Yeah. So I'm gonna. Oh, went too far. I'm gonna go over here. I'm gonna deep clone all these. Let's see, what do I want to get rid of? Get rid of the Game Boy. There we go. So let's hold the melody parts. Oh wait, I don't need to do that. That's all right. I can just use start position to juggle things around if I want. Oops, that doesn't work. There we go. Let's get rid of that mute. So you could see, like, if I wanted to do a crazy new, break in this old song, I could totally just start juggling things around and messing things up for a section if I want to do something unique and special. Let's try that extreme vibrato. That doesn't sound really like much, does it? Looks like it resets. Oh. If I do that. Let's do pitch slide. Making a whole new thing here.
Really handy remix machine.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. It's you're flying blind a little bit because it's not like you have the whole view of the waveforms in front of you. But as far as all the things I want to do for a live set, like this kind of works just as well as the Octatrack for me.
Yeah, you could definitely lead to some happy accidents with arrangements that way.
What's the shortcut that I forgot here? Oh, it's that guy. Yeah. Something I need to keep in mind when I do these things is what's really important with doing it this way is to come up with a schema that you stick to. Like track 8 is always the percussion, the drums or something. Track 5 is always the bass, that kind of stuff. Obviously, in this example, I just kind of pasted everything whimsically, and I have no idea like where the bass guitar is and where the drums are at. But of course, I could always do that later. Like I think track 4 is the drums. I think so. I could always move that over here. Yeah. But you kind of get the idea here. I like doing things, because playing back pre-recorded stuff for your live set, there's not much you could really do as far as, you could play back the melody live, but then you can't really do anything else because your hands are busy. So I look at it like I'm just going to render everything as stems, break everything up so I could rearrange the song structure. I want to feel that I could, for me personally, I like feeling like I could mess up. And I know that if I have that fear of messing up on a live performance, like that's what I'm looking for. If I don't have that fear, then I'm not doing enough live. And for me personally, like the last thing I want is just to hit play and jump around because I'm not really good at jumping around. So, yeah, that kind of shows that. I think I actually did that song already as a full thing. Here's. You get the idea. Stems, they do things.
Good. And just to reiterate, as long as you render your stems at 128 bars, the start command will always advance the measure once, starting at 0, 0.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because you have, well, I guess in M8 you could do, you have 0 to 255, so you could do it to 56 measures, I think. But at the time that I made all these like I have, if you saw those directories of songs, but I have basically years of live performance stems here. So they were all made for the Octatrack, so they're all at 128 measures. But I'm pretty sure you could do, yeah, because it currently, well, I guess the advantage of doing it at 128 measures is you could play half measures in there as well. You could use slice mode instead of the start command.
Yeah.
So you might have more options actually keeping it at 128.
What's nice about that, though, using slices, is you can easily go into the chain screen and then just use the transpose command and just go up one increment instead of having to set all the STA
Right.
values for each phrase. So then you're just using one phrase for each stem.
Right. And the other advantage too is if you're using the slice mode is you could oh, that's so true. You're going to save so many phrases that way. Another advantage is when you use the start command in the phrase, now you could actually juggle, the notes in the pattern.
Yep.
Since the start
Yep.
command is relevant to the slice that you're on.
Yep.
So
you could do all sorts of micro arrangement
yeah.
within the slice.
I don't know why I ended up there had to have been a reason why I didn't use slice instead.
Did it
Except
have
for
anything to do
repitching,
with,
which is a
did
stupid
it
use case.
Did it have anything to do with like cross section between slices? Never mind.
Yeah, no. I don't know why maybe you know what? I came from what I did on the Octatrack, and I think I just did the exact same thing I do on the Octatrack, and I didn't think
Makes
past
sense.
that. Yeah. I have spent less time on the M8 than a lot of people that have M8s. Because I, too busy in the backs in the scene, backstage programming things instead of actually making music on it.
Right.
Soon.
Yeah.
So does anybody have any questions for the... I mean, I could show the using Slice instead.
New Trash 80 M8 remix album.
Or just M8 album.
Or M8 album.
Yeah, I mean, that's something like I bought an Analog 4 a long time ago by Electron. And the reason why I liked it so much is it had like solid reverb with good subtractive synthesis. And like that, I focused a lot on stuff like the reverb on M8 to make it good enough where I had that same kind of feeling of like, I could do really decent subtractive synthesis on this, And once I got to that point, I realized that like I could do most of the stuff that I use other gear for on the M8 itself, which is pretty sweet. Glances at all the things I could sell.
Yep.
I'm not going to do it though. Every time I sell gear, I end up like wanting to buy the gear back again.
I end up just replacing it with something else I don't need.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I have room on my desk. Well, there's this other giant box that I've been looking at. Just rinse and repeat.
So what do we want to cover now? What was the list of things I said?
Well, let me look at the straw poll and see if there's anything we haven't covered. MIDI syncing with gear. External instrument control. Kind of went over that. I kind of very lightly went over that. Advanced uses and options of the Touch Designer display.
Yeah, that's a topic for another time probably, especially that I think that the Touch Designer version will be used less and less in the future.
Yeah, makes sense.
I mean, I still want to make a proper application for it, but that's going to be later.
Yeah, I think that covers pretty much everything.
All right, we're
as
done here,
far as-
folks. No more
yeah.
meetings.
All done. Yeah. I'm looking for questions, but I don't. Oh, it looks like you may have some more questions regarding. Oh, you got it. Never mind.
Yeah.
Someone in Twitch chat is asking about FM.
Something about bread and 8-bits is asking more questions about them. With the 2 envelopes per instrument, that means there's a way to dial in only 2 of the ADSR stacks for the other patches. Yeah. Yeah, but you could use the LFO as a third envelope, and then you also have 3 commands in the table. So within that limitation, there's a decent amount of options. I do want at some point to add in a second LFO or something else, in that blank area that's it's on the envelope screen, but maybe sometime in the future. Pretty sure we have the headroom for it. Yeah, but it's definitely man. So there's 4 operators, but there's only 2 envelopes. But you could assign, you could also assign multiple operator destinations to the same modulator. So you could have one envelope affecting more than one operator. So there's that as well. So, but if you wanted like 4 unique things happening all at once, then you have to kind of, use the LFO as an envelope or use tables. But as I went through a bunch of DX7 patches, it seemed like for the most part I'd get away with using 2 envelopes because a lot of the classic sounding stuff I guess isn't super complicated as far as its modulation stack. So we could, I could show some chord stuff with MIDI, but I did we go over that last meeting? Yeah, if anybody if anybody has any songs to play, let us know and we'll work it in. Because I sure don't.
Yeah, can I jump in and show off the instrument sharing
Oh
stuff?
yeah, totally. Let's do that.
Cool. So it's a little tool, web-based tool I've been making.
Let me set up the.
Just showing on stream now. Hopefully you can see that.
So this is a almost like just a visual aid for patches.
Yeah, so it's a way for people to share their mate patches online with other people, rather than having to create an image and share it. You can just grab an M8 file and drop it on, and it'll show all the settings, and you can
Something
share it
like
with the
this
world.
might be super useful in the future too when Success System exclusive is implemented. Because then you could do stuff like if you're in a browser that supports MIDI, you could probably do transfers back and forth.
That would be really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was thinking, like, currently it's a bit of a pain to get instruments off the M8, but I find just getting them onto the M8 through the M8 file is kind of a pain, so I'd just rather enter them manually if I can see it here without having to like unplug SD cards and stuff. It's much easier to just enter the values from this. But yeah, you can upload and share and search. There's not many to search from now, but planning to add usage notes. So
What happens if I like have updates to patches?
yeah, I guess you just add v2 or something.
Right.
But
it's like a never-ending thing.
Yeah, I don't know. I
Go
could
down
add
that
more
feature
features,
rabbit
but
hole.
yeah, I want to keep it fairly simple. But I think adding comments, and I guess you can like add a comment to say this has been updated. Check this one instead. But yeah, you can download it as a file. You can share it privately. It'll give you a URL that you can then paste, and that way it doesn't get shared with the world, but you can send a link to people and they can click that and they'll get those settings. I got a few
super handy.
Few more features to add, but yeah, mostly comments and usage notes. I think is the main feature I want to add.
Yeah, I see you have some of the FM patches I made shared in there. That's why I was like, wait, but those are not the finished versions. How do I update them?
Yeah, so I guess like there's currently no way to remove stuff unless you harass me to remove stuff.
Right.
But yeah, on the need to figure out some better way to do stuff. Like I can have like a login system, and then people can edit their own patches, which I don't really want a login system, but maybe it'll be necessary.
Yeah, I'm kind of delaying on stuff too because I want a proper forum like on the Dirty Wave site for all that kind of stuff, or for historical reasons. I think forums are really nice to hold data, but at the same time, it'd be even sweet to have stuff like this as a plugin.
Yeah, or once you've got a forum, maybe we can like integrate it so you can use your forum login.
And then it's exactly like it gets into the OAuth stuff and all that crap.
Yeah, that's pretty much it so far. Have a play. There's probably bugs and stuff. Let me know.
Is this in? Did you look at anything what 2xAA did?
Yeah,
or did you see that after the fact?
I came across that after I had already implemented instrument loading. But yeah, that was cool. But yeah, it didn't have support for the FM instruments yet,
Right.
which was mostly what I was interested in. But yeah, I think that's about it.
Looks great. Thanks for showing us. There's like so many things on the to-do list. But it'd be awesome to have that kind of stuff integrated into a place in the future. But yeah, that's super neat. Thanks for showing us.
It's really handy. I'm probably gonna throw some patches on there at some point once I have some worthy instruments of sharing.
All you need to do now is just re-implement all the synth engines and have. Just kidding. It's too much.
Being able to play the sounds live and see what they sound like would be cool. I would like to add upload a preview of the sound would be cool.
Yeah, I know I'm gonna have to. And it's on my to-do list for doing system exclusive transfers and that kind of stuff, which I imagine obviously instruments should be supported, so you could like quickly transfer an instrument over. I haven't worked out any of that details yet because I haven't started on it, but with that in mind, like something like what you've developed would be super badass in combination.
One of the things I thought of before was being able to just show your instrument as a QR code on the screen, and then you can just load that in your phone, and it will upload it or something.
Too bad it's not two direction. Is it too late to add a camera to the M8?
I was just thinking about that.
At some point, it's just going to turn into a phone.
Yeah.
And then we're just going to lose. Wait, what if I did add a phone to it with the SIM card? So that way you could like call up your buddy and work on a track together? Wait. Yeah. I am joking. That's actually one of the things that I think I've said this before, but I struggled for years when I was like, I want to make a hardware synth, and I've experimented with making hardware synths, but every time what always stopped me is like, why don't you just make an iOS app so that way you don't have to worry about any of the hardware stuff, And it's like, well, and then I just lose motivation after that point to do anything. So
yeah, but buttons though.
Buttons. Yeah, the touchscreen is pretty lacking. And I haven't seen a super great tracker like touch interface yet, unless I'm missing a few that I haven't played with. But it seems like touchscreens are better with like a button grid, like a virtual grid, than it would be like tracker style. Like the Nanoloop app is a perfect example. Like that's perfect for a touchscreen.
Does it have haptic feedback? I've never used it before.
I have no idea.
For like the buttons and stuff.
But I mean, it has, it's a 4x4 grid for the sequencer, so it's perfect for finger button input onto those squares.
I see.
Yeah. So does anybody have any songs they want to share, or are we at that point yet? I could dive in more MIDI stuff if anybody wants to see, like, but I think we did that last time with chords and junk.
I do believe so. Yes.
Yeah, it's all blur. This whole COVID thing, man, everything's a blur. It's kind of like when you go to a party, like every year, and then all the years just blend together, and you have no idea like how how many times you
Yep.
went to the thing.
Yep. It's like it doesn't seem like I don't see any questions.
I wonder if I have anything worthy of showing. I probably don't. Knowing me.
Yeah, I think all the new stuff I've shown is all the stuff I used for the demos today. I'm looking.
Yeah, most of the songs that I have on my M8 is stuff that I've streamed previous. Like I wrote it when I was streaming.
Yep.
Which is probably something I should do more of coming soon. Because it seems like that's the only way I could get the motivation to just concentrate on playing with the M8 without diving into code.
Yeah.
Is having that pressure of I'm doing streaming now and that's all I could do. Programming is awesome and a curse at the same time.
I definitely feel that way. I've been brainstorming, learning some game dev stuff, and I just think about it kind of the same way I feel about a lot of music production, where the more you do it, the more it's just like I don't know. I don't want my hobby to feel like work. But you know,
Yeah, I'm trying to get
we'll
there.
see. Yeah.
Trying to get there now that the job's out of the way.
Right.
I still have a couple of client jobs, but they're like super minor in the background comparatively to the major work I was trying to do at the same time as this stuff. Somebody asked pre-order when, and I've already answered as best I can. It's moving. Things are moving forward, but until I have a clear path, I'm not going to take people's money.
How to make a snare drum? I think Tim did in one of the streams did a snare drum, like a C64 style snare drum, but a subtractive synth snare drum.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the default snare would be the macro synth snare synth. I think that thing's great.
Yeah, it's a good place to start.
It's kind of like a 606-ish sounding thing.
Yeah, it kind of has doesn't have like sort of envelopes kind of built right into the instrument to get like the physical part or the tom part of the snare.
Right. Yeah, it's that two-part process of the noise and the tom.
Yeah.
And it makes sense if you think about a snare. It is essentially a tom drum with the snare trap thing on the bottom of it. You know, the springs that are stretched out or whatever. So it's like you need that noisy bit and you need the just the tone, the tonal part. Because it's true with all drums, isn't it? I'm gonna shut up now.
Yeah. I think at some point I could go over like maybe making some kick drums and stuff. I was working on some really aggressive kick drums the other night, and using like 4 or 5 different tracks and then rendering it down to one sample and just resampling it over and over again to add all sorts of extra harmonics and stuff. The M8 is surprisingly uh, competent at that. And once you're familiar with the how the amp and the limiter and all that stuff kind of work together, you can really shape and sculpt sounds. Good.
I think the main stuff that's missing from Mate is more kind of stacking of filters and that kind of stuff to help shape things. But you know, feature creep never ends.
256K asks, super ignorant question, but would it be theoretically possible to add other synth engines ported from things like max MSP or pure data?
I mean, architecturally, it is possible to add more engines. The limitation is to deal with RAM, essentially. But when properly re-engineered for M8, it doesn't use that much RAM. I think that the main question is what value would said synthesizer add to the arsenal that's already there, and if there's enough that pushes over that threshold where, you know, usability be damned, we need another engine in here, you know, then we could look into that. You know, that was kind of my decision with adding FM synthesis was,
Yeah.
you know, macro synth or mutable instruments braids has, you know, like 3, I think, different, maybe 4 different FME, you know, algorithms in there, but it's all 2-op, you know, so it hits a wall really quickly of what's possible in it. And so adding like actual, you know, at least 4-op FM was, you know, took a priority for me because I really wanted to make those kind of sounds in it. There's some other things though too that I think would be that I would, if I had free time, what I would like to focus on type features on M8, like, you know, a user drawable waveform in the wave synth, you know, would be one, which is possible to do. I just haven't had time to do it yet.
Yeah, that'd be really cool.
But you know, the next versions coming up are going to be more, you know, fixing any behavioral issues or bugs, depending on your perspective, and usability tweaks. You know, like we've talked about previously, like when you copy, it should say, you know, I just copied something. When you paste, it should say, I just paste a thing. You know, that kind of stuff, as well as maybe on-screen key command shortcuts. And then M8 to M8 sync modes, a more robust mode for when you're using two M8s together, is something else that's on the list. Obviously, that's been low on the list because I'm the only person that has more than one. But for this, when these pre-orders start, I need to have that kind of stuff ironed out before I ship those units. So that way, people that do buy two, you know, have the ability to sync them together to make them work like one. I don't know exactly what that entails yet because we were discussing before the stream started that there's different pitfalls depending on how you want them to behave with each other. So it goes into a kind of complicated topic, but something definitely worth pursuing. I mean, as of right now, two work together just fine. You just have one, you know, MIDI sync receive and one MIDI sync send. But it'd be cooler if you could copy and paste between them. It'd be cooler if when you hit play song on one of them, it'll play the song at the exact same position on both of them. So that way they kind of work like one sequencer. Maybe some other things in there too.
You just have to use one controller, and you could, when your cursor will hop from one M8 to the other. Cool.
Oh no, it's starting to sound like a waterfall of features that we need. I don't know if that's probably not really worth it.
No.
And probably makes it really confusing.
It'd be really confusing. I'd get lost so fast.
But yeah, just some basics like, and you know, else DJ has some of those basics already too. But I would just start there. Like at the very least, when you hit play, you should be able to have them both. You know, in song mode, when you hit play, have them both play from the same location. And then in live mode, they both would be, you know, their cues would be launched in the same manner. You know.
Yeah. The real question is if you have two of them playing and you have them linked up, how does the group solo and mute behave? Would it be per device or across all of them?
Group solo mute. It'd be per device. I
Per
think
device.
solo mute gets complicated enough as it is.
Yeah, it's true.
But I mean, how would you? How? Yeah. I mean, I get there's an argument to be said to having that on both, or to have it, have that send solo to both. But I don't know. Again, this starts going into the weeds a bit of
Yeah.
what's actually needed. At the very base, somebody that's a sweet picture. Somebody just posted a amazing picture of Photoshop Mate with 3 screens.
I'll buy it.
I won't.
It's gotta have the little hinges so you can swing them around.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and of course I have to add in all the extra MIDI stuff. Like there should be commands for doing the mute and solo, or those are probably like going to be note inputs or something. There should be mute and solo control. There should be sysx control for sending and receiving patches in songs. I don't know about samples. That sounds tedious.
Yeah. You could just do what I did. I just sent a bundle.
Yeah.
And then they could just, if they want to, they could just open the track and then save it into a new directory.
Oh yeah, somebody said playtime over total time is another
Yeah.
thing. Yeah, there should be a time display on things for sure. I wouldn't probably put that in the project screen. I would probably put it in the song screen. There's probably room for it there. But yeah, those types of usability things are basically high on the list. Anything to make the current version just a little more polished for the production units that will be shipping. That's basically where the code should be ironed out at. But lately, I haven't really touched it at all. Just minor bug fixes when I find them, because I've been working on the hardware stuff lately. Because my priority is basically finish hardware stuff, so that way you could open pre-orders. Second priority is get the documentation like solidified, and the third priority is like add all those additional little usability tweaks before production units ship. Like, so it's like any like cool, super awesome like new synthesizers or any of that kind of stuff is not even thought about right now. I'm gonna hire interns. Wait, I have to move into another city to hire interns, or need to move to another state. California, you can't have non-paid interns.
Oh, really? I didn't know that, actually.
Yeah. I mean, it makes sense. Like,
What if
companies
the
are
interns
companies
live
are
in a
total
different
jerks,
state?
and they basically use it as free labor. So, but for me personally, I can't afford anybody right now. So, there's that. Anyway, if anybody has any other questions or things to share, if not, we could end it here soon because we're running out of topics, and I have no songs to show.
Yeah, y'all should no pressure, but you need to send us demos for Saturday. No pressure, but do it.
Or don't if you don't want to. You know.
Even
You
if
know what?
you wanted to.
Maybe that should be my like almost like a weekly beat. Like I should force myself some time once a day to like work on this one song just so I have a new song to show at every meeting.
It's not a bad idea.
Yeah. So
Hey,
on that note, and I probably should launch another poll to figure out like what topics we want to cover, as well as like is weekly too often? I don't know. There's a lot of other topics we could touch on. I just haven't spent the time to think about like what would be cool topics.
I think fortnightly might be better if we're not having enough content.
Hang out in Fortnite. That'd be pretty cool. So everyone, just get everyone to download it.
Did
Oh,
you did you
I'm
literally
just
say
kidding, I'm just-
Fortnite? What did you say?
oh, you mean like every second week?
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
Fortnite's every 2 weeks.
People
Yeah.
who
Oh,
know what
okay.
fortnightly means.
Yeah.
All I think of is the video game.
Yeah. So
Yeah, I mean we could. That's an option. I kind of like the meetup, and I kind of like it loose, where nothing's really planned. But dead air is a thing. So
yeah, we could all play our demos at the exact same time and be like mate battle royale. Be good.
it's also a thing for me personally, like as an occasional artist, I guess nowadays, just getting comfortable and getting used to doing online streaming, doing online content like this, because I feel like that's kind of where people need to go nowadays, you know? So any bit of practice I have, like, I appreciate. So I like
Yeah.
doing these little meetups.
I highly encourage anyone who wants to show anything off, maybe if they've found a cool way to do something in the M8 to share it. Outside of the people who show up to this chat and a Twitch chat, there are a lot of people who are outside observers at this point who are checking out the YouTube streams and the Twitch streams after the fact and watching them and getting excited and learning things. So um, it's not just for the people who are already using it and already know how to do these things. So anything at all that you think is worth sharing, whether it's a demo or patch or just table trick or something, please definitely share it. There are others who would love to see something. Maybe they're looking for a very specific kind of feature or sound and nobody's covered it yet. So whatever it is, if it's you know integrating M8 with your Eurorack rig or using the M8 for non-musical audio related things. Um, you know, I, I was thinking about someone using their M8 just as a to send envelopes to external gear, for example. I guess it's music related, but you know what I mean. Like it's not
I
generating
use my
voice
M8 to
speakers
control
from.
my Roomba.
Yeah, there you go. Like I mean, uh, there people are going to be asking about those kind of things, and if you're doing something like that, I'd love to see because it's really cool. It really is like a little pocket Swiss Army knife of music things, and I like one of my uses is I'd love to go to like a used synth shop, and bring the M8 with like a MIDI cable and demo something, one of the instruments there, since I can't play keys to save my life. Just plug it into a synth through the MIDI and just play back my own riff, and that would be. I'm very excited to do that in the near future.
You're working on a track, you have a riff. You're not necessarily
I'm gonna
liking
play
like the synths
Stairway.
that you're coming up with.
Yeah,
So you just like convert that instrument to MIDI, then go to the store and plug it into like every keyboard to
I'm
figure
gonna
out
play
like the
Stairway on
perfect
my Prophet.
lead.
Yeah. For real though, I
Yeah.
mean, you could do that, and
You
then
could do that.
you could do the audio out. You could go into the line in, and then you could mix it in, and you're like, yes, this is what I need. I need the Moog One for $6,000 for this one lead.
Yeah.
Um,
That's the primary use case for M8.
yeah,
I wonder if I get away with that in Perfect Circuit or not.
you'd have all the Perfect Circuit employees ask, "What the hell is that?"
Yeah,
And where
well,
can they get
two of
one?
them have one, so
Oh well, there you go.
yeah.
Um, I know all the folks at Patchworks in Seattle. I'm pretty sure I've talked to. I'm in a couple other the Seattle Modular Discord, and literally there's like 3 or 4 Patchworks employees who've signed up to your Patreon or to your notification mail list independently of each other. And then I started talking about it, and they all realized that they're all signed up for it. So
Yeah, I did get contacted from them asking about like when do you think you'll be able to, you know, do some distribution with these to sell in stores? And I'm like,
Oh yeah. I'm pretty sure I know who that was, which is funny.
yeah, it's good. I've gotten it actually from a couple that's second store that contacted me about that, and it's like it's the same answer I give, people who are on the Patreon essentially is, as soon as I know more, I will let you know. But uh, stores would obviously come well after the first batch and second batch. If that's even a thing, I have no idea. This is going into territory that I'm super new to a lot of that and how it works.
I mean, it's wild. Like, yeah, especially those patchworks people. They want to showcase it,
Yeah.
but they can only showcase stuff they sell. So they're like, please let us
Yeah.
buy some.
So
we
but it's
can...
also like, what do you do? Like, do you like say a store wants some stock? Do they I assume they don't pay you any money. I assume you just give it to them, and then whatever they sell, like I don't even know how that
I think
stuff maths.
yeah. I think there's like the MSRP, right? And then they would get some cut of that MSRP. So that would probably actually increase the cost. Or
Well,
yeah,
yeah, I'm
they
sure if M8 sells in the stores, whatever the price is, that'll be through the Patreon and then also through the mailing list after Patreon. There's probably going to be a range of prices, and the Patreons are probably going to get the cheapest end of that,
yeah.
just because of how everything works out. Like I would imagine if it was, let's just say if it's $450 or something, it's probably going to be like $500 in the store, not $450.
Right.
Just because there's more people, there's more hands involved with money and everything else. So
Yeah.
some work on consignment, some work on sales and returns. Yeah, and that's the other thing that scares me too is like, what do you do about returns? Like, do the store, like the person returns it to the store and then does the store ship it back to me? And then what do I do with it? Do I throw it out? Because I can't sell that as new. Like it goes into all those like strange questions of like, what do companies do?
Refurbs. You could have
But that's not like, to me, that's not how reality is for like boutique manufacturers. Like, sure, it makes
no.
sense if you're Roland or, a bigger company, but if you're just making like, you know, like I bet you, Monome doesn't do that kind of stuff, do they? I have no idea.
I honestly don't know.
Yeah. I just always assumed like whenever I bought something that was a like super niche and boutique, like it was you know, I'm not gonna be able to return this type of thing. Yeah.
You might be able to do just limited like Patreon notices, like, hey, I have 5 units.
Well, yeah, the B stock, short run B stock.
And then you just sell them at a discount.
I would probably do it Apple style, where I would basically, anything that has a minute scratch on it would be replaced, and everything would be wiped down, clean. So it basically is a new unit, and just scrap the parts that aren't up to snuff. So like even if it was a refurb, it wouldn't be like a scratched refurb or anything like that. But it's still like I'm dealing with tiny numbers and a small margin. So I don't even know. I don't, I have to do research on how boutique, what's the normal thing for boutique companies, And there's also like country rules too. Like I think in the EU, like you have to offer returns for 30 days or something. I don't know. I'm talking out of my butt now, making stuff up. But I think there is all sorts of weird stuff like that. Yeah. So if everybody just pitches in and tells me what to do, then I'll just do it. I'm just kidding. I need to arrange some time and figure out who to talk to. Like, I don't think contract manufacturers would give me the right answers, and who are the people? Is there a what's that thing called? Where like, what's that video series called? Where you like get to watch the expert talk about stuff? Masterclass. Is there a masterclass on this?
Yeah.
And if there isn't, why is there not? I don't know. Anyways, I guess that's it. Unless we have any more questions, or you want to hit us with some outro music.
Outro music.
Ah, Jesus.
Sorry. Oh, there
Oh.
you go. There's your outro music.
Yeah, get
That's
out
a
of
kick drum.
here. That's what it sounds like. Okay, stop. All right, well, thanks everybody for joining us. It was fun. And if you have any good ideas for topics, just tag me and I'll add it to the poll that I'll be submitting later this week for next week's meetup. And at some point, we'll figure out if we want to do this every week or every other week or once a month or whatever. I think for now, let's just stick it to once a week until it gets really terrible. And then we'll go from there.
Sounds good to me.
Yeah. All right. Thanks.
All
Thanks
right.
so much, everybody.
Have a good night or afternoon or morning.
Bye.